Welcome back to the gun dungeon, guys. Got three of my favorite 9mm handguns out here: the CZ-75, the CZ-75D PCR, and the Springfield SA-35, which is a clone of the P35 or Browning high power. All three of these guns are top shelf shooters. I'll just go ahead and throw that out there. They all shoot way better than I can shoot them, and they shoot better than most people can shoot them. So we'll just go ahead and say that. So I have the three out here for one specific reason. I'm comparing the high power to the CZs. And it's my opinion that the CZs take a lot of influence from the high power design. They look a lot alike. Functions are definitely a little different. They feel a lot alike, got good feeling grips. So it's just my opinion. I don't know how much influence was actually taken in the design of the CZs from the high power, but it just seems to me like they're heavily influenced by this design. Now, I've got the full-size 75B out here, my stainless, because if you look, the slides and barrels are essentially the same length as the high power and the full-size CZ-75. Now, the width and stuff is fairly close. The CZ-75 is going to be just a touch wider, as you can see here, but the grip, very, very close, very similar. You can change grips out, of course, but the frame itself is very, very similar. Let y'all take a peek there. One distinct difference being that the CZ-75 full size has a much longer frame. I say much, 2 rounds essentially. You're gonna get around 16, 17 round mags for the 75. Most of your flush fit like this are gonna be 16 rounders. Now, normally high power mags are 13 rounds. Springfield did manage to cram 15 in their mags, but I have some stainless 13 round Metgar Browning high power mags here that seem to run just fine. So 13, 15 rounds for that one, 16, 17, all the way up to 19 round, little bump plate on the bottom of mag rounds for or mags for 75. And then we have the the PCR, 75D PCR, essentially the 75 compact here. Now, when comparing it to the high power or the SA-35, you'll see that the slide is much shorter on the CZ. Slide and barrel is much shorter. But when you get to the grip frames, that's where they become more similar. So you essentially, with a high power, you've got the CZ compact frame with a full-size slide and barrel. That's why I have both sizes of the CZs out here for that particular comparison. Now, when it comes to shootability, like I said, they all shoot really, really great. One key difference is your high power is a single action only, which means the hammer has to be cocked for you to fire this gun. You can pull the trigger all day long with that hammer forward and nothing is going to happen. Whereas both CZs are double action, single action, which means you can pull double action, and then once the gun is fired, goes back forward, hammer stays back. Your next shots are going to be single action. That's with both of the CZs. Now, this CZ, the full size, has a safety. So it can be carried cocked and locked. Or you can manually drop the hammer to half cock. You see it's not all the way forward. You can carry it that way. Safety will not engage when it's carried like that. But you have the double action first pull. Whereas the PCR has a decocker. So I can go with my hammer all the way to the rear, decock, it will decock down to that half cock position. You can see it's not all the way forward, that's all the way forward. And same manual of arms as the full size after that. Like I said, this is single action. So naturally, a single action gun is gonna have a very, very good trigger. And the more I shoot this gun, the better that trigger gets actually. This is not a very old gun. And the more I shoot it, the better that trigger is getting. The CZs, let's try that single action trigger. You're gonna have a little bit of take up here because of the double action feature here. Most will always have a good little take up, and then we hit our wall. Boom, good trigger, really, really good trigger. Let's try the same thing here. Gonna have that take up per usual. Oh yeah, really, really good trigger. So I can't, they're all really good triggers. They're just slightly different, if that makes any sense. Where this, you're gonna have virtually no take up, a little bit of slop there, but not near as much as the other. Boom. And very little, if any, over travel. Whereas these have a little bit of over travel. So it's a whole lot more take up and a lot more over travel. So not as good a trigger on the CZs when it comes to the single action trigger. With the high power, you're definitely going to have a better trigger when it comes to high power versus CZ. So I think the two most comparable ones are probably these two, since this is more of like a carry size frame. Now granted, this has got a little bumper on this magazine. I have flush fit ones as well, makes it a bit smaller, but essentially the same size as far as feeling them in your hand. And they both feel really, really good. I can't complain about the grips at all. That's why I say I really think CZ was heavily influenced by the high power design, just based on some of the looks and how they feel. And man, there's just something about both of these platforms. When you grab them in your hand, it's like they feel like they were just made for your hand. And that's a couple of the, well, one of the big selling points of CZs for me, but also the high power as well. Now, when it comes to carrying, this is going to be completely preference. So this is just my opinion. This is my preference. You take it for what it's worth, what you're paying for it right now. I prefer to carry the CZ. Now, let me explain why real quick. And it's because of the single action only. So with a 1911, a lot of people carry cocked and locked. And you can very well do that with a high power. There's cocked and locked. That is safe. But there is no grip safety like on a 1911. So if that safety is to get bumped off, now you have that very light, very crisp trigger. That's all that's holding you back from a kaboom. So if you're carrying it inside the waistband and that safety gets bumped off, there you are. That's what you got. Whereas with a CZ, I've got that hammer and I've got that long pull. So there is no safety on this one particular model, but I have that long pull. And to me, it's just my preference now. I feel safer carrying like that. So if I was to carry this that doesn't have the decocker, I'm still going to decock to the half cock position and carry it like that. No grip safety, as opposed to cocked and locked. That's just my preference. And I have the option to carry either way with this one, but my preferred carry is always going to be hammer forward to that half cock position. Just my preference. So we already talked about magazines just a little bit, but that's kind of a similarity. Got a bug in my mouth. It's kind of a similarity between these platforms as well, is you're going to have a lot of magazine makers for both. I think this one, this CZ full size, that's a Metgar mag. I think this is actually a CZ branded mag for the PCR. This is the Springfield mag. Here's a Metgar mag. So you're going to have different options, kind of like the 1911, where you have a bunch of different mags being made by different manufacturers. Some of them are 14 rounds, 15 rounds, 13 rounds, what have you. You know, like I said, with the CZ full size, you can get all the way up to 19 round. I have a 19 round mag in there for it, maybe even bigger. I don't know. But it's one of those things you gotta make sure that what you have is going to work with your gun. Not all mags are created equal. Not all mags that are even good mags will work in every single gun. It's just one of those things. Make sure that whatever mags you're getting work in your specific gun, and then just stick with those. That's what I pretty well do. So another point to discuss when we're talking about concealed carry or carry guns, even if you're carrying outside the waistband, is weight. So this is a full-size steel frame, steel everything gun, and it's a pretty hefty gun, not terribly so, but you can feel some weight here. The high power, also steel frame, steel everything except for grips, of course, and it's got a little bit of heft to it. So when I compare the full-size CZ with the high power, they're very, very similar. I don't know that if I could reach on the table, pick one up, and tell you which one it was, unless I felt these grips, because these are a little bit aggressive. These are aftermarket. But whenever I pick up the PCR, this is an alloy frame. And this is going to be the same alloy as, say, a PO1, if you were to get that. The only difference is you got a rail with the PO1 as opposed to the PCR. Much lighter. There's a significant weight difference between these two, and it's because of that alloy frame. So if you're going to be carrying all the time, that little bit of weight does add up. So the PCR takes the win on that part. You know, something that's not really talked about a whole lot, but we all think it, and we all kind of have our own opinions on it, but it's cool factor. How cool is the gun? How well do you like the gun? How appealing is it to you? And I think CZs kind of bring their own level of coolness. I think they've kind of got a bit of a reputation as a hipster gun there for a while. I don't know how accurate that is, but you know, who am I to say it's not? They're a pleasure to shoot, though, and they are really, really cool. So I think they have a pretty high cool factor. But do they have as much of a cool factor as a Browning high power with its ties back to John Moses Browning? That is just cool. I think the cool factor, the win goes to the high power on the cool factor. Y'all be sure to go check out Vetter Holsters, big sponsor of the channel. Have about any kind of holster you can think of. There's one of the cool designs that they have. You saw the blood red holster for my XDM 10mm. They make a holster for just about any gun out there. A lot of the 10mm stuff. I use their light tuck. That's about all I use anymore for inside the waistband stuff. Great products, great company. Check out Vetter Holsters. You all be sure to go check out Target Sports USA. They're a big sponsor of the channel now. And if you use my link below, you're going to get a free gift at checkout with your purchase. Their Ammo Plus membership is a great value. If you shoot very much at all through the year, it's going to pay for itself in no time and then some. Be sure to check out Target Sports USA. What are we doing if we're not going up here? Let's take some shots up here. There's the Gary Gong. There's the 12-inch. See what we can do. Got it twice. Got the 12-inch once and the Gary Gong once. Then I started yanking the trigger. All right, let's try the PCR. It's got some big old sights on it. It's kind of tougher. I can hit the 12-inch, but I keep missing the 17-inch Gary Gong. How do I do that? See what the high power can do. Well, that was all me. I just got it once. 5 rounds each. Boys, I don't think you're going to go wrong no matter which one you would choose. It's based on what you like the looks of, how it feels to you. Now, one thing I'll bring up is with the CZs, you're going to get this a little bit thicker coating on here. This is not a bluing. It's some kind of like Teflon finish or something. They have a word for it. I forget what it is that CZ uses. Of course, the stainless is going to be stainless, but most of your high powers are going to have a bluing. This is a matte bluing. It's not going to be as durable as the CZ finish, but you know, if that bothers you, if wear bothers you, send it off, have it Cerakoted, whatever you want to do. As far as that goes, reliability, they're all pretty reliable. Had some break-in issues with the high power of that specific SA-35. Seem to have worked themselves out, so reliability, good to go. That's what it is. So if I was put into the position where I had to choose one of these guns, and it was going to be the only gun I was allowed to have from then on, I had to keep it to do everything, I'm going to choose the CZ-75 PCR. And one reason being is because of being able to carry it with that hammer forward and having that double action first shot, plus it being just a little bit lighter. So those are two of the wins that mean a lot to me. The finish being a little bit more durable, it is what it is. It don't really mean a whole lot to me. I think good, honest wear looks good on a gun anyways, as long as you're not getting rust issues. But that being said, a little bit heavier weight, single action only, that's the two things that kind of knocked it out with the PCR. The trigger is better. I'm not going to argue that. So if it's just a range toy and cool factor, high power. Something to carry, put into use, probably going to go CZ. That's where I'm at with it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And until next time, stay tuned.